The Queens of Spice podcast is created for adult audiences only. Our show contains cursing, vulgar content, dark humor, descriptions of sexual acts and desires, and is not suitable for listeners under the age of 18. Some episodes also contain themes which may be triggering for listeners. Please take care of yourself. Witch Tits! Welcome to the Queen's Spice podcast. I'm your host, Rachel Raga. I'm here with my two BFFs, Ash and Jack. Hi, guys.
Hi, Rachel.
Hi. How's it going?
Good. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing wonderful. Thank you so much. We are reading Bad Luck Charm today by Julie Johnson. Ironically, this was supposed to come out on Friday the 13th, and here we are, like a week late. It's fine. We just had some scheduling stuff that happens.
Because Friday the 13th.
Yeah, it was literally Friday the 13th, and everything fell apart. So you know how it be. But yeah, so we are here reading Bad Luck Charm, Julie Johnson, on this not Friday the 13th. Gwendolyn Goode lives a charmed life. As owner of an occult shop in downtown Salem, Massachusetts, she's accustomed to all things odd and otherworldly. But when a bloody animal sacrifice is left as a warning outside her place of business, the police seem to think Gwen might be the target of some truly evil doers. Suddenly, her sunny existence is riddled with danger in the form of crazed pagans, rogue employees, and a nefarious henchman. And there's only one man who can protect her until the storm passes. Graham Graves has no time for witchy nonsense. Not in his love life, and definitely not in his line of work. Despite the ever-present oddities of his hometown, the private investigator and acclaimed police consultant prides himself on staying objective in every case that comes across his desk. That all changes when Gwendolyn, a woman who gets under his skin like no other, finds herself in the crosshairs of dangerous criminals. Graham is determined to make her safe, even if her presence tests his steady resolve. But as their mutual dislike sizzles into unexpected attraction, he becomes even more determined to make her something else. His. So welcome to Bad Luck Charm. We intro this book with like a kind of a little prologue, like kind of teaser. The reason we picked this book was because of the Friday the 13th implication, like the bad luck thing. And there is one like content warning. I don't know if it's a warning. It's a content note that I came across. And the content note was a fortune-telling parrot.
What?
and that's why I chose this book specifically.
That's not really a warning, though.
No, it was more like a content notice of like, here are the things in here, like, you know, there's like some witchy stuff going on and blah, blah, it goes on and on and on. And then it's like a fortune-telling parrot is the last one. And I'm like, well, you have my attention.
Birds do freak me out, so...
Oh, I hate birds.
How do you feel about fortune-telling birds?
Well, I don't know. I've never come across one. I don't think. It didn't tell me my fortune.
Oh, you may have, yeah.
I bet you those fucking pigeons that are always after me probably are telling my fortune. You're going to get shit on. And then it happens.
Your life is chaos. Your life is chaos.
You know, it's supposed to be good luck to get shit on by a bird, but...
I think people just say that, though.
They do.
1,000%
They
people
do.
just say that. That's okay.
They do, just to make the person who got shit on feel better, because it doesn't.
Isn't it the same thing like when it rains on your wedding, it's supposed to be good luck? I think it's the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Power went out at my cousin's wedding.
It rained at our wedding.
It did rain at your wedding. It rained a little bit at your wedding.
Yeah.
It wasn't like terrible, but
It kind of like
No,
sprinkled.
like it rained the night of your wedding. Oh, no, it did rain the day because my
Yeah.
hair was ruined.
it was drizzly. Yeah. But it was also in the country, so it kind of fit. We were driving horses
Did
at
it?
the time. It's fine.
We just rolled up in a couple of horses.
We rolled up in a couple of horses in a wagon. It literally rolled all the way down. And then I got way too drunk. The end.
Preach.
So we start this book off with this prologue, meeting Gwen and Hetty, who's her barista, and they're at the Gallows, which is like a shop, like an occult shop / cafe in the middle of Salem. And I should mention this too, that like Salem's like my jam. I've been there a bunch of times, going there in like 2 weeks.
Are you?
Yeah, I'm going early October. And
Exciting.
it's like, I love going through this book and being like, I know exactly what this is. I know exactly what that is. I know exactly what park that is. I've been to that graveyard before. And I'm just like, this is fun. Like, it's just kind of fun. And I've got a really good mental picture of what's going on in this book. So just a little, little aside. That
I'm glad you do, because I was going through it thinking, like, what the fuck? And not because of the place or the descriptions of the place, more so just because of the fucking content.
We'll get there. Anyway,
I am
we'll
very
talk about
surprised.
it. But I will say, Julie, she writes a lot of books about New England specifically, because I'm pretty sure she's from New England. And so there's a lot of like books in around Massachusetts specifically that she's written, like not just this arc, but there's a bunch of other ones too. She's published something like 20 books, so she's pretty, she's well published. And to that note too, this is book 1 of the Witch City series. The second book is called At Last Sight. And then the third book is called Worst Laid Plans, which is unreleased. I want to say At Last Sight just came out in March, so it's like a fairly recent book. Yeah, so we meet Gwen, and she's working at the gallows with her barista, Hetty. Hetty's like your standard issue goth lady who's just not cheerful and hates everyone. Always has a really thick eyeliner on and stuff, and she's quite delightful. Gwen is just like, how would you describe Gwen? She's like always very well dressed.
A mess?
What's that?
A mess? She makes no sense.
She is a bit of a mess. She's like OCD and anxiety and is always dressed to the nines. She calls it her like
character was just all over the place.
Well, she calls it her outfit armor, which is an interesting kind of approach. But anyway, so we intro them at the gallows, and so we get this little kind of vignette of this like a cult shop with this cafe, and like the local university kids hang out there and just drink free coffee refills, and like the tourists in Salem come in and buy stuff, and there's like standard issue occult shop stuff. There's like books and bestsellers and potions, like fake potions, obviously, gems and rocks and stuff that all you can imagine. And just I had a very good vision of like, I know exactly what store I'm walking into right now because I've been to this store like 100 million times. And then what we get is this convo with Hetty just being like, hey, that detective is back, and I'm pretty sure he's worried about that guy you killed out back. And then we just like cut to 2 weeks earlier we cut to 2 weeks earlier, be like before kind of all this shit goes down. So it's very cinematic in that kind of way. And so at the end of the prologue, there's this like summation of like the past few days I've been verbally accosted, threatened, kissed, kidnapped, accused of murder, thoroughly fucked by a man that I hate, and I had my psychic disappear. It just like so it all sums up in the prologue. It's like, here's what's going to happen in this entire book. Go.
It's a hook.
It's the hook to get you in. Yeah, for sure. And I will say it is a very enticing hook. I'll give it that. Because that's kind of what I based like selecting this book off of, was that hook. And I'm like, okay, cool. I'm on for this ride. Let's go. Let's buckle up. Let's do this. So then we go to 2 weeks earlier, and immediately right off the bat, Gwen's like at work, and she's just like restocking the citrine or something because there's this ongoing joke about they have too much citrine, whatever. This dude walks in and starts like screaming at her because she sold his wife this like potion called Jilted Juice, and like it's for cheating husbands apparently, and you're supposed to pour some into their underwear, and it's just like itching powder basically. And if they're cheating, then they have a reaction or something like that, and it's just like this a fun little thing that people do. Anyways, this guy rolls up and just starts like screaming at her.
It's a fun little thing people do.
It's a fun thing people do.
In other people's underwear.
Yeah. You just like put some itching powder in the underwear when they're cheating, and here we go. Anyway, so guy flips out right before the guy's like about to slap her. Like it's like very escalated and heated. This dude like grabs him by the shirt and pulls him back, and of course this is like the male protagonist, Graham, who's just like, it's time for you to leave, sir, and like gets him the fuck out of there. Gwen is very upset by this because she hates Graham because they're not friends. Graham, however, is best friends with her best friend's boyfriend, so they're always forced into these situations together. However, he never like goes out of his way to be in her personal space, kind of, but she also like avoids him constantly because they're always at the same events. So and then we get like this jump back like 14 years earlier where we get like Gwen's childhood and how she had met, like, so she spent her summers in Salem when she was a kid because her mother's just the worst. And so she stayed here with her aunt, who was the owner of the gallows before Gwen took over. So like 2 years ago, her aunt passed away and left everything to Gwen. But in the summers when she was a kid, she used to come and stay here and help run the shop and just like fuck around Salem and whatever. You get this backstory where she was like at a beach one day. She like steps on a sea urchin and there's like a lifeguard there that helps her out and picks like the spines out of her feet. And this is 15-year-old Graham, will you find out, because this is like the flashback finding out how they met. Because she was like 10. There's like a 5-year difference between them. And of course, what happens when like the 10-year-old has like this guy save her from sea urchin spines is that she develops this massive crush on him. I think it's like we jump a couple of years later too. She like runs into him again at Flying Saucer Pizza, which like represent, they actually have the best pizza in fucking Salem, and I'll die on that hill. And it's very good pizza. Holy shit. And also like the place itself is pretty rad. They have a Borg standing at the front door. It's really cool. Yeah, we get this backstory with the two of them and how they've like come across each other a couple times. And then we get a flashback to like 2 years previous to this when Gwen first moved back to Salem after her aunt had passed away. And she was meeting up with her bestie Flo at I can't remember which one it is, at one of the bars in town. She overhears Graham just like on a tirade about, oh, like, who are you setting me up with? I bet you it's one of these like occult people, like faux Wiccans, and you know, just like saying some really disrespectful shit about basically like her aunt Colette, like her entire life and everything she built here in Salem, like running this occult shop and just like, you know, being who she is as a person, just like dragging it all through the mud. And so Gwen overhears him say this, and it's only been like, I think it's been like 6 months since her aunt passed away, so it's still kind of a fresh wound here. And Gwen just like turns around and just leaves. And Flo, of course, goes after her like, oh my God, like he didn't mean that, all this shit. And she's like, yeah, I'm obviously just not ready to do this. So then we cut back to the present. So Graham had showed up and she's like, what the fuck are you doing here? Like, there's no reason for you to be here. Hate your guts. Get the hell out. And then he like he follows her out back. And she's like, what do you, like, get out of here. You're not allowed to be in the storage room. Like, please leave.
Get out of here.
Get out of here. And then he's like, he's asking a bunch of weird questions about like cameras and security and stuff. And she's like, what the fuck is this about? And he's like, there's a crime scene in your back alley. So I'm here to talk about it. And this is also, you get this, this one's actually hilarious. I can't even be upset about it. She has spent most of her time ignoring Graham and staying the hell away from him because she hates him so much, which fair. Flo described his job because, again, she wants nothing to do with him, so she doesn't follow what he does. Flo described his job as a fixer, and so Gwen thought for the longest time that he like worked in construction or was a handyman.
What a dumbass.
This is where she finds out that he's like a consultant with the police in this instance, because he's running this investigation for this like occult happening that occurred in her back alley of her business. And she's like, oh, I thought you were just like a handyman. And he's like, are you fucking kidding me? He's like, we've known each other for years and you thought I was a fucking handyman. It also brought him down a peg, which I'm like, that's perfectly fine with me.
Yes, that's why I hate you so much. I hate handymen.
Fuck handyman. Damn.
Get a real job.
Oh my God.
Jesus.
Ash?
Yeah, says she with the carpenter brother and the father like who builds furniture.
Yeah. So yeah, the crime scene is in the back alley. It's like, it's a cult in nature, of course. It's like an animal sacrifice, and there's like some markings and occult writing and stuff on the wall. And it says in Latin, "We will rise again."
We rise again.
I got that in my head too.
Oh, I went to Josh Groban's. You raised me up.
So close, Ashton. You almost made it. So this is where we also meet a fairly attractive Silver Fox detective who actually works for the Salem PD. and his name is Caden Hightower, because of course it is. And again, you also get the vibe that like Caden is not a big fan of Graham either, because they just butt heads all the time, because Graham, that's who he is as a person. So Hightower asks her to come in for like an informal interrogation, and basically just like, so she goes down to PD with them, and they show her what's going on with the other occurrences of this in the city. And there's been a total of 4 of these kind of sacrifices in the last few months. And so they're thinking that she might be the next target, because they're escalating. And the animal, like it started with, oh gosh, it was like a rooster, a cat, I can't remember what.
Pig.
A pig, and then a donkey. Or there was a goat and then a donkey, I think. Or anyway, it's escalating. Basically, the next thing is like there's not much larger than a donkey to sacrifice until you get into humans. And so
Moose.
there's a lot of moose in New England, I hear.
I mean, there might be.
Actually, there probably are a few, because it's on like a similar latitude as New Brunswick. They get shit tons of moose. Anyway, so we get this interrogation, and they're like, you might be the next target, so like just be careful and whatever. We get this, so she goes back to work, and then she ends up going home. We get this conversation she has with Flo, and I have such a mixed bag when it comes to her best friend.
A mixed bag when it comes to her best friend. Not the entirety of the book, but just the best
Well,
friend.
I'm trying to focus specifically on this problematic issue, one problematic issue at a time. And
I was going to say there's more than one.
trying to compartmentalize here. Yeah, Flo's like, she's kind of a weird, overbearing best friend, but in a quirky way. But at the same time, I'm also like, you need to chill the fuck out and treat your friend with some fucking respect. Because like, anyway, so they have a conversation, and every so often you'll get this talk with her where she tries to convince Gwen to see the good in Graham.
What's her deal with him?
With whose?
Flo's deal with Graham. Why does she care?
Well, Graham is her boyfriend's best friend. And so, you know, I mean, there's the thing where they would love for them to get together, sort of thing, because they're all besties.
She wants to double date, right?
Yeah, basically. But also, so Flo knows the backstory of Gwen when she was a kid, because they met when she was younger, about how she used to have this massive crush on him. And of course, Flo was also there to see when like the crush fucking ended because he was being a douchebag. Flo is still like clinging to that ideal, I think, of like,
dude, she was 10. Fuck off.
Well, it carried on Jack into like her like teenage years as well, like up until she was 18. So it was always kind of there, and Flo was always like the cheerleader for it. And so I don't know, it's almost like she can't let that go, sort of thing. And she has this like ideal in her head that like, oh, you'll end up with Graham someday, like we just need to get there. And it's kind of, I don't know. And that continues on every so often whenever she talks to Flo. So I'm just like, doesn't pass that test. So then we get that backstory about Gwen's childhood, about like how it was really shitty and terrible. Her mom was the worst. She went to like university for interior design, and then landed this like big fancy job in New York that she wanted. When her Aunt Colette had passed, like she literally just graduated university, landed this job, was like weeks away from starting it. And her Aunt Colette passed, and she had to like, Aunt Colette was very sick. Like she had a stroke or something, and Gwen came back to like take care of her and look after the shop and stuff, instead of taking that job. And then when Colette passed, she left everything to Gwen. And so Gwen just carried on in what she was doing. And then, so the next, also there's a lot of wine in this. They drink so much wine. So she's like having this like existential before she goes to bed, and she's reading her like pirate romance books and stuff, and we're learning about her backstory. And then the next day we meet her neighbor, Mrs. Proctor, who is a very kind of uppity older lady who has something to say about Gwen's front garden, about how she doesn't maintain her front garden, how sad it looks. And so you just like get this little like day-to-day interaction with her, and just like put that name away in your head, because we're gonna come back to Miss Proctor later. And in the meantime, when she's at work, they can't use their back alley anymore for garbage and stuff. So she ends up like taking her garbage around a different alley or some shit. Anyway, when she's going down this alley, this like guy confronts her. His name is Mickey. Of course, like, what's her first thought is like, oh my god, this guy's gonna just fucking kill me because this is what they were just talking about. I'm gonna get sacrificed. What the fuck's going on? And the guy's just like, whoa, calm the fuck down. Like, I'm just looking for your psychic Zelda. And so Zelda, we learned, is what's her name? Madame Zelda. She's the psychic that works at the gallows. She basically I say works there. She's not even like a contractor. They just like share a space. And Zelda brings in, like, she does tarot readings and all that jazz. And so she brings in clientele. And so it's like this like kind of parasitic relationship. Parasitic? Sure. Relationship where they bring...
Symbiotic?
Yeah, sure. Symbiotic. It's a little parasitic, but that's okay. We find out that Zelda... That this Mickey guy, which we don't know who he is yet. He's just this big, scary fucking dude. Thinks that Zelda has stolen something from his mother. Because Zelda was seeing his mother for like private sessions, like tarot readings and stuff at their home, and all their like a bunch of like expensive stuff started going missing, and he's like, this bitch fucking took it. I know she did, and she took advantage of my mother and all this other stuff. And it's like, oh god, okay. We kind of end that scene, and Gwen's like, I don't know where Zelda is. I don't have her contact information. Even if I did have her contact information, I wouldn't give it to you because that's like not cool. Mickey like backs the fuck off, leaves her alone, and away we go. So that night, Gwen is going to meet Flo at the tavern for this like indie band or something that they're listening to. Anyways, whoever it is, they're very excited about it. And so Gwen's working late. She gets off, and then it's very funny because this is one of the few times where I'm like, I know exactly what alleyway she walked down when this happened because they're describing it. And I'm like, I've walked down that alleyway before. I know exactly where that is.
Did you get sacrificed?
Did I? No, I didn't. I'm still here. I'm doing all right.
Okay, that's good.
I wish I got sacrificed in Salem. Could you imagine the shirt? I went to Salem and all I got was this lousy t-shirt. I didn't even get sacrificed. I would own that in 2 seconds.
My friend went to Salem and she got sacrificed, so I got all her stuff, including this t-shirt.
That would mean one of us would have the shirt, Jack.
That's what I'm saying.
Oh, you guys want me to
okay.
get kidnapped in Salem? That's so cute. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm scary. It's okay.
Only a little.
Wouldn't that be fun though? What a fun adventure. Okay, so Gwen's speaking of Gwen's walking down through this alleyway to get to the tavern, and she gets kidnapped. Surprise. And then so we kind of like cut to black because she did like these cloaked figures kind of come out of nowhere, and then like they blow this stuff on her face, and she just passes out, like gone. And then when she wakes up, she's like kind of feigning being awake, and she's listening, and there's these 3 women talking, and you kind of get snips and pieces of it here, and they're talking about how these bad witches are back in town and trying to like shake some shit up. And when we get a couple names in here too, it's quite a curious little scene because what we find out basically is that Mrs. Proctor, her neighbor, is one of these cloaked ladies.
Ooh.
And the other 2 we find out are Agatha and Sally. And they're all like octogenarians, like they're in their 80s. We also find out that Colette, her aunt, Gwen's aunt, used to be the high priestess. And their coven is called the Bay Colony Coven. And so what they're doing here is that they're trying to protect Gwen because we find out these heretics are coming back in to Salem, and they'd been banished like years before, and their power was like sealed away or some shit. And so they think that they need Gwen's blood to undo this binding that was placed on their power by Colette, her aunt, the high priestess. And so this is kind of like, this is the major overarching conflict that's going on here now. So Gwen in trouble, these people trying to protect her. We have these like heretics that are kind of going on in the background trying to catch her.
You know what?
What's up?
If anyone ever needs like some of my blood or whatever, like just ask me for it, because like you don't need to be stalking me and terrifying me, and like you don't need to kill me. Like I'll help you out.
Oh, I'll give him a blood sample.
Like
Need
some.
So Jack, the only thing I'll say about this particular instance, and listen, I agree with you. Just like take it and go, like leave me the fuck alone. However, in this instance, because they're like witches and it's all bad mojo shit, they like, what we're gunning for here is she has to potentially be sacrificed in order to lift this curse, this binding curse. So that's the kind of concern here. It's not so much like, oh, we need her blood. It's like, no, they have to sacrifice her on an altar like they did with all these animals kind of thing, because it's a cult mojo.
Right.
Yeah, so it's a little bit more serious than just like, oh, I need to go get blood.
Fine.
I know, sorry. I'm sorry. Listen, I'm hearing you. and I
Gotta be
want that to
dramatic.
true. So,
Gotta make a big fucking deal out of everything.
God, I mean, they're all about rituals.
This is why they got kicked out in the first place.
Yeah, this is
Seriously.
why these bitches were burned at the stake. Come on.
Jesus Christ. Okay.
And this is why we burn bitches.
Burn, bitches, burn. Disco Inferno. Okay. So the three coven ladies leave her in the basement of this house. We have no idea where this is. It's like some weird abandoned house. It's dark. It's pitch black. She doesn't have lights. Anyway, so she's just sitting here in the dark, just existing for quite a while. And then she hears someone break in upstairs. And of course, who the hell just came to her rescue but Graham? And how did Graham find her? Well,
He's a vampire.
he's a vampire. Could you
A werewolf.
imagine? Must have been a much better book. Okay, so
He's a
The,
werewolf, and he sniffed her out.
oh, I
And then
wish.
took her
Okay.
to a moonlight dinner.
And they ate spaghetti like Lady and the Tramp.
Aw, but he's a werewolf.
But he was a werewolf.
I love this visual. It's wonderful.
And then he did that nodding thing.
Yes, Jacqueline.
Hell
Yes.
yeah, Jacqueline, you got it, buddy.
Yay.
You even got the words right.
Such a good girl. So Graham comes to her rescue. He had tracked her laptop, which was still in her bag for whatever reason, and which was still at the bottom of the stairs, sitting there, because these three ladies might be Wiccan or witches, but they sure as shit aren't tacticians. And just left her bag there. He tracks her down, comes and rescues her. The whole like, who hurt you bullshit, alpha male crap.
Who
And
hurt
that-
you?
Who hurt you?
What do you love? Who hurt you?
Anyway, so he takes her home to his place, which is a thing. And of course, anyway, this is where it starts getting real problematic in my books. Because he's like,
this is where it was?
well, this is where I was like, okay, I see what kind of book this is going to be. She's like, oh, I need to go home, because we find out that like she has severe insomnia issues and she cannot sleep in a room with somebody else. She has to be by herself in her bed, like safe and sound kind of thing, which is like some leftover childhood trauma from when she was a kid. And she lived in like horrendous trailers with her mother and just like not safe situations and whatever. And so she has a very specific way that she has to sleep in order to sleep. And Graham, of course, does not acknowledge this in any real positive way. And he's like, no, you're staying at my place and I'm going to keep an eye on you because someone is obviously trying to kidnap you and this is terrible. And of course she doesn't tell him any of that. Because she doesn't want, like, what she tells Graham is that I was like, somebody kidnapped me. I dropped my phone. I didn't know what happened. And then I woke up and there was 3 cloaked figures and then they left me. And that's all she tells him, because she knows who these 3 women are, but she also knows that they're trying to protect her and she doesn't want to like get them arrested basically. Because like one is her neighbor and they're like friends of her aunts and this kind of thing. So she has this like bleeding heart for these 3 ladies and doesn't want to throw them under the bus. So she straight up lies to him, which
I feel like that about my kidnappers too.
yeah, it's like really quick Stockholm syndrome. It got really there really fast. They're just old ladies. They're fine. She's like going off about something. I can't remember what it is. And he just like, in order to shut her up, he just like kisses her.
Oh. Okay.
What was that reaction, Jacqueline?
Just so obvious.
She didn't want the tea.
She didn't want the tea. She didn't.
Did he even ask her if she wanted any tea, or
No.
He's just like, here,
He
bitch.
just tried to shut her up by drowning her in tea.
Here,
Literally.
bitch, have some tea.
He's like, you're talking too much, and then kisses her, and it's like, oh, I see. This is where we're at. Okay, cool.
At least he didn't say, shut up and kiss me.
No, he does. You know what he says later though? It's not this one, but I think it's further down. I'm sure I put a note about it because it drove me fucking anyway. He says, and I quote, "If I knew kissing you would have shut you, if I knew kissing you would shut you up, I would have done it sooner." Like, I'm not even fucking joking, dude. It's the worst.
Jesus,
it's so bad. And it even comes. Here's the thing too, because like, let's be fair. There are some dark romance kind of adjacent books that like you can get away with that, not get away with, but like some of that stuff is like in the moment, it's, you know, acceptable for lack of a better term. It makes sense in the narrative or something, like there's a reason for it, and
it's not out of place.
You could like at least pretend you don't want to kill someone when you hear it or whatever.
Yes.
Yeah.
I could come to terms with it in an easy manner. I cannot come to terms with it in this manner. And there was nothing redeeming about it either, because I'm just like, what the actual fuck? And I will say too, because, and this is, I don't want to defend it, but I feel like, so this entire book is written from her perspective, and I feel like the entire book would have benefited from being written dual perspective.
100%.
Because like these moments where he just like impulsively does something, I would love to know what the fuck is going on in his goddamn stupid head. Because I want to stab him in the face. And if I had a little bit more insight, I might not want to stab him in the face as much. I would like to.
He comes across as like, I'm a man and I know what's best.
Yes, that is exactly the summation of it. Yeah.
I was just going to say, or it could be like way worse. If
You're
knew
not
what he was
wrong.
thinking.
Yeah.
Like,
you're not wrong.
I was just staring at her. Her lips looked so pretty. Her eyes were like on fire. She was so mad at me, and I just couldn't help myself. And I lunged at her, and I gave her my tea. Like, fuck off.
But you know what? If that were the case and it were in his perspective, it would change the tone and the vibe of the book, which is going to what Rachel said. Like, there is some just...
We're going to keep coming back to it.
There is something off about this entire thing. Like, I wanted to like this book so much, but I just kept coming back to the, well, that was a choice. Well, that was a choice.
You even messaged the group a couple times. They're like, some choices were just made. I'm like, I know, I'm so sorry.
Yeah. And like, even with the characters, like, I admittedly, I read a fair amount of dark romance. Like, I probably am the one that has read some of the darker, creepier shit. Yeah. And like, even in that, like, you know what to expect. I mean, you don't necessarily always like it, but like, you're not shocked by it, but you're supposed to find Graham endearing in some capacity, I feel like. Or like, the tone of the book is supposed to be like rom-com-y. Maybe it's not, and maybe that's why I'm having a hard time with it, but
I hear you. And let's carry on, because we're going to come back to this conversation a couple times.
Over and over and over
like
and over.
We're like a solid third
just
of the
like
way
the
through.
repetitive shit that goes on in this book. It's like, how many times is he gonna force his lips on her before she decides she actually likes it? I'm like, okay, you used it once. Oh, we're gonna use it twice. I think she even uses it a third time. And
hey man,
like,
you gotta wear her down sometimes. You have to wear her down.
No doesn't mean no. No means keep trying.
Jesus fucking
Ask
Christ.
again differently.
Oh God, no.
Stop asking, because you're just gonna get a no.
You know, she might just not be into tea. Like, it's perfectly fine.
Yeah, maybe she likes, like, I don't know, water. Fuck, leave her alone.
So
whiskey, wine. She likes wine.
She likes wine and she likes whiskey, or scotch. Sorry.
And dick.
So she does like tea.
Not his, though. So the next day, after she doesn't sleep, because again, she's like, I can't sleep with another human here. And he's like, well, fuck you, I'm going to bed. And, you know, because that's a lovely way to treat someone you're into.
Yeah.
And so she stays up. But
here's a blanket, bitch.
Well, no, he gives her the password for his Kindle so that she can stay up and read his Kindle all night. And it's like, or just take her the fuck home, you psychopath. Anyway, so...
Again, it was supposed to be endearing.
Yeah, it's supposed to be endearing.
He is so sweet.
So sweet. He gave her the password for his Kindle. Oh my God.
And his dick.
Do you
Oh, wait,
think
no,
there
that's
were any
later.
books on it? Oh my goodness.
Yeah, there was some.
Could you
Anyway.
imagine? They're all like textbooks.
No, but one of them is like her favorite book. Like, of course it is. Anyway, ugh, Jacqueline.
Oh, so she finds it on his Kindle and realizes
Yeah.
he ain't so bad after all.
Anyway, every so often you'll get these little nuggets of her finding out stuff about Graham because she has vehemently ignored everything about him for years on purpose because she hates him, rightly so. And so now when she's finding out these little things about him and the things he pays attention to about her specifically, she like melts a little bit, I guess, where she's like, oh, maybe I don't hate him as much as I did because he actually is paying attention to the things about me and we actually have a lot in common and maybe we really like each other. Anyway, you keep coming back to that a lot too in this book, almost as much as like the Graham being an asshole thing.
Because she can't make up her own mind.
Yeah, anyway, so the next morning, Flo and Des show up to his place with breakfast. And Flo is like over the fucking moon that this is happening, of course. That she's like, oh my God, you stay over at his house. This is the whole fucking thing. Jesus Christ. And again, I'm just like, you're a terrible friend. You're just such not a good friend.
Right?
Jesus
Like,
Christ.
oh my God, he kidnapped you? Oh, you're so lucky. I'm so happy for you. Here's a fucking McMuffin.
Dead ass. And literally, Flo knows about Gwen's issues with insomnia and not being able to sleep in the same room, and like Flo knows, and so when
That makes it worse.
it makes it so much worse.
So
Like, I
much
just couldn't
worse.
imagine like, oh hey, my best friend has these really triggering issues. I'm going to encourage her to trigger her issues. Like, what the fuck, man? Like, what a weird
Yeah.
take.
Because everyone
just-
needs a boyfriend.
Well, no, and it's a lot of it's like, oh, you should really be challenging yourself to do these things. It's like, or she has actual fucking trauma, and maybe you should encourage her to see a fucking therapist instead. Like, what the shit, dude? Like,
Oh my goodness.
oh, it's just weird. Anyway, the vibes are strange. So then Graham takes her home after they have breakfast with Flo and Des is Flo's boyfriend.
He's finally consensual.
Yeah, so he takes her home, and then he like again he calls her out for her home. So her home is a
Tragic.
big, well, it's a gorgeous home on the common, and it's like, you know, it's like several hundred years old. It's like it's built in the 1600s or something. So it's an historic building, and she, you know, took 6+ months to like empty the stuff out from her aunt because, like, again, it was like very traumatic that she had passed, and like she had a hard time coming to terms with that. And so she took a long time kind of downsizing her stuff and donating it and all these things to like make this her home, her own home. And she never really populated the house per se, except for her bedroom. And she is an interior designer technically, like she went to school for this whole thing. And so she just kind of left everything. Like she didn't do anything with the kitchen. Like there's still like some really shady wallpaper up in the dining room that's like bright yellow or some shit. Like just it's an old lady's house. Like it's not. It just needs all to be updated. And so she hasn't touched anything since she moved in here. And so Graham, of course, in his ever dying fucking wisdom of being an alpha male, calls her out on all of this.
It's kind of like, hey, bitch, you're fat. Yeah, I know I'm fat. Now I'm going to go eat ice cream and get more fat.
Seriously. Anyway, so he calls her
That's
out for
the
like,
feel.
you haven't touched this home. You know, you don't let people into your life. And then he kisses her again because of course he does. For whatever, like once they start arguing and stuff, it gets him like riled up and he kisses her again. And then he starts like belittling her about
Her
who she is
trauma.
as a person, basically.
Jesus.
And then she like slaps him. Of course,
And that
she
turns
does.
him on too.
Well, and then he leaves because it's like late or whatever. And yeah, anyway, so, or it's not late, sorry, it's early in the morning, but she hasn't slept. So anyway, they have this
Because he
Because he
forced her to
kidnapped
stay at his
her.
house.
yeah, literally. Okay, yeah, 100%. So anyway, she goes to sleep for a couple hours and then she goes into her work. She does end up telling Flo all about like the coven and the three witches that kidnapped her and stuff. But again, she hasn't told Graham, and she ain't gonna. Then she has this confrontation with Eliza Proctor, her neighbor. Eliza tells her straight up that like, you are being targeted, you are not safe, you really need to leave. Salem. Like, pack your shit up, close your store, get out of here. Because like they're going to hunt you down and try to kill you and sacrifice you in order to like regain their power. And of course, Gwen's like, this is crazy. People are crazy. I'm not going anywhere. I'm not selling my business. That's like so extreme. She's like, I have people protecting me. Like, I'll be fine. And admittedly, too,
Old ladies.
old ladies. Graham.
I have old ladies protecting me.
Well, this is her to Eliza saying that like I have people because Graham. So Graham's business is called Grave Watch. Hilarious because he hates whatever.
His last name's Graves.
Yeah, but anyway. So his company does like private security and shit like this and investigative whatever. And like they get bail, people jumping bail and shit. They track them down and whatever, all these things. And
Dog the Bounty Hunter.
yeah, he's Dog the Bounty Hunter, but less of a douchebag somehow. But
Less. Really?
yeah, have you ever watched that show? Oof.
He loves his wife.
Oh, yeah, he does. Okay. So Graham has like put a guy on this basically to like run security on Gwen. And they put like security cameras up in her place of business and
Her
like,
bathroom.
Because he's all about consent.
because he's all about consent. He likes the tea. Yeah, so we find out all this stuff and so like she's like I'm protected.
It's hotter when she doesn't know she has the opportunity to say no.
Oh God. Nobody liked that. Chat, I'm so sorry. So Zelda so we find out that so when she goes into work, like we finally get this like Zelda's been missing for like a solid week, her psychic. And she's starting to get like concerned about it. But then she like kind of carries on whatever. And then she has this Hightower comes in to see her to ask her about like what is just like if there's anything else going on and about like the kidnapping specifically because he had heard about it. And Graham had been like, well, she'll come in and talk to you about it when she can. And she never really went in and talked to him about it. So he shows up and he's like, hey, what's up, bestie? I heard you got kidnapped. Anyway, so they go for a walk. And a chat and like kind of informal or whatever because again she's like, yeah, I just got kidnapped but I have no idea what happened in the end because this is the story she's sticking to. And so Hightower they go for this like nice walk down near the waterfront and which is conveniently where Graham lives and so they're like chatting and flirting because Hightower's a fairly attractive guy. She's like super into him and he's like super into her, and this is of course interrupted by Graham, who is a douchebag. And Graham just like he keeps doing this thing whenever Hightower's around where he's like implicating that Gwen is taken.
Oh my God.
And Hightower's just like
That's so hot.
they keep having like a low-key pissing match about it and it's just like the most painful thing.
But it's so hot.
And then every so often I'm just like, is this how real people exist? Like, what is going on? It's very odd.
But it's so hot.
It's so odd. It's so unattractive.
They both like me.
Oh my God. Do you guys like
Oh
me?
my
What?
God.
Flo's like, oh my God, you're so lucky. They're both so hot.
Jesus. The worst. Okay.
He
So-
made me kiss him. Oh, you're so lucky.
Oh God.
My stupid boyfriend asked if he could kiss me.
Okay. So then we find out, because Graham, of course, interrupted and sent Hightower on his way. This is where Graham tells Gwen what's up with Zelda. Because Zelda's been, like I said, missing for a week. And we get this insight that Graham, his company was hired by the O'Banions. And the O'Banions are these, like, Irish mob type who own, a bar, super seedy bar where super seedy shit goes down. On the far side of town. And they're the ones looking for Zelda. Mickey, we find out, is one of the O'Banions, and he's the apparently the younger and more reasonable one of the four brothers. I think it is 3 or 4 brothers. And so they're the ones looking for Zelda because she apparently stole stuff from their mother, and so they're
Mama
super pissed.
O'Banion.
And so they hired Graham's company Grave Watch to hunt Zelda down. And so now we have this little conflict of interest because Gwen's also like, well, what are you going to do if you catch her? And he's like, well, we can hand her over to the O'Banions. And she's like, what are they going to do with her? And he's like, that's none of my business, but they're probably not going to be super fucking happy about it. And she's like, you're just going to sacrifice, like, you're just going to hand over my psychic to these people to probably kill her. And he's like, this is none of my business. And of course, Gwen's like not happy about this because she doesn't like people dying, even if she doesn't really know them. Don't know if you knew this, but
she doesn't want people dead.
She doesn't want people dead. Surprise. There's this fucking scene. There's this bullshit scene. It hurts my soul. They're at Gravewatch and they're in the conference room or whatever because they're talking about the Zelda situation. Graham just deadass admits to like alpha bullshitting his way into being with Gwen. He just straight up is like, I'm pushing everyone else out of the way because you're going to be mine. And she's just like, what the fuck? And then, of course, they start making out because, of course, they do.
Yeah, he pissed on her, and then now he wants to make out with her.
Like 1,000% that's what's going on, and it's so weird.
He what did you say, Ashton?
He pissed on her.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, he metaphorically pissed all over her and then started making out with her because that's what you do when you're an alpha male, apparently. Also, is that a weird furry thing? What's up with alphas? So that their makeouts get interrupted by, I think her name is Brianna. She's like the secretary or the front desk person for Gravewatch, who also Gwen is like catty about, which I fucking hate.
It's matching the same energy that Graham's putting down, though.
It is.
So is it shocking?
It's not, but I don't know, man. I just hate
it's
it.
Contradictory as fuck.
Oh, is it ever? And she's just like so bullshitty and catty about it. Like I hate it. It's like, yeah, well, not to mention Graham's like the description of Graham in this, he is fucking smoking hot. People are gonna like look at him in a way. Like shocking.
A main
right?
male
like,
character that's smoking hot.
Yeah,
we've never read that before.
It's a weird one. But anyway, so she interrupts them making out, which is a thing. And then because Gwen feels a way about this, like the making out and the Graham just like making it very apparent that he's like trying to chase her because he wants to date her. She goes to Flo's place and they sit down and have like some wine about this, as they do. This is a weird conversation she has with Flo. Because and this is where you get that insight of like Flo is like, you've been in love with this guy since you were like 10 years old. And just because he said some heinous shit, like you're supposed to look past that in order to be able to like realize that you're actually still in love with this guy. And it's just like such a fucking like, ooh, the cringe. It's so cringy. And this is her best friend being like, hey, this guy's terrible, toxic, and awful and bad for you. You should definitely date him, though, because you love him. Like,
She's such a good friend, though, for real.
I mean, here's the thing, is that, like, if he wasn't being an alpha male, toxic, bullshit, piece of crap human, he would be an okay person. Like,
what does that even mean?
Well, like, if he wasn't specifically...
If he wasn't a douche, he'd be a good human.
Well, no, but, like, if there was no love interest in this, and this was just a story about Graham doing Graham's job, it would be fine. Because he is, like, the guy in charge. He's getting his shit done. He's looking after people. He's making sure people are taken care of. He loves his brothers. He, like, takes care of all the shit. And he's, like, a very good friend to Flo and Des. And, like, they have bro night on occasion and stuff. Like, they're like, a fairly...
He's
like,
good at being a bro.
He's good at being a bro. But then as soon as you, like, drop this relationship thing in here, it's like, did you lose your brain? Like, are you a functioning human? What the fuck is going on right now? It's just so off-putting.
Oh, I see.
Ugh.
You should not be allowed around women.
Oh, God, no. And then, of course, like, and again, Flo is like, I feel so gaslighty. I fucking hate it. She has this rationale that she's like, hey, maybe you don't understand that Graham actually cares about you because you have it all twisted up in your head about what caring looks like because your mother didn't care about you when you were a kid and you didn't understand what caring really looks like.
Hey, you're traumatized. Didn't know if you were traumatized, but maybe the reason you can't accept love is because you're traumatized. You're traumatized. Did you know that you're traumatized? You're broken. Do you understand that? Like,
this man
you can't
will
accept
fix
love.
You. Don't you want to be fixed?
He just wants to force his love down your throat. Maybe his dick too. We don't know.
Just drink the tea, girl. You'll love it, I swear.
It's not great,
You're
guys.
Traumatized.
And the more I talk about it out loud, the worse it gets. So there's that. And so there's this notion that Gwen has, her like resolution, I guess. She's like, I'm not meant to be loved. sorry, I'm not meant to have the kind of love that people have. Like which is a very like trauma response to something. It's like I don't feel worthy, or I feel like a burden, or I'm not enough for somebody to love me. And it's like, okay, cool. That's some deep shit. That's a trauma response, obviously. So like we got that down.
Okay, yeah, now flush it out.
Yeah, and now flush it out. And it's like,
wait, no,
nah. Let's just let a man fix it for her instead.
Oh,
and by fix it, I mean let's just plow right through that. Let's not acknowledge any of it. It's fine.
Who needs therapy?
Oh God. Anyway, so after we have that whole fucking shit show, Flo and Gwen
Traumatized.
Oh my God, Flo and Gwen planned this like not quite a heist, but it's they planned this. What is this? It's not a heist, Ash. What's the word I'm looking for?
It's like a stakeout.
Well, like they come up with this plan. What they're gonna do is they're gonna go. Because they have, Gwen has Zelda's address on file. She didn't give it to anyone else because everyone's been asking. And she's like, I'm not giving it to anyone. But she has it because business stuff. So her and Gwen are going to go to Zelda's. And they're going to convince her to return the stolen jewelry. And then everything's going to be great. That's what we're doing. We're going to see Zelda, return the jewelry, and then everyone is fine. Everything's fine. So, of course, when they show up to Zelda's like, I don't know, fuck that shit. I'm not doing any of that. And also meet my parrot who is an oracle. So this is where you meet Hectate, the oracle macaw. He like just yells out random fucking words when shit's happening, and admittedly, like it's got a pretty good sense about him, but it's just a bird that yells shit, and it's just random. Like it's not even. I don't even know what some of it is. It's just like random words. But he also acts as a doorbell. Like he knows when someone's coming by.
He acts as a doorbell.
He does. Well, I don't know, whatever. He's got a sixth sense for who's at the fucking door. Anyway, so somebody, while they're sitting there having this confrontation with Zelda, trying to convince her to like return the jewelry, and she's like, "Fuck you, bitches! I'm not doing any of that." There's the bird lets them know that someone's at the door, and who's at the door but fucking Mickey, the guy who was trying to find Zelda. And so he's here to like fuck her shit up. And so there's this like there's this scuffle between Zelda and Flo and Gwen. Zelda ends up grabbing a gun because Mickey's coming up the stairs. And so there's Gwen and Flo like jump out the back door and go down the fire escape. And then there's like shooting, and then you kind of don't know what happens. Because Flo and Gwen just like get back in the car and leave. So that's where we leave Zelda. So like, okay, something occurred. The Grave Watch guys did end up showing up because they like, Flo and Gwen saw them as they were leaving. Something is getting sorted out. That's all we know. So that night, and this is okay. So she is a woman that lives by herself in, like Salem's a pretty chill town generally. It's a spooky place, but like it seems relatively safe from my perspective. But like, so grown ass woman living by herself, and somebody just like walks into her house in the middle of the night. What is the first fucking thing you would do?
I hated this so much.
She grabs her fucking baseball bat because of course she does. And these these steps are coming up the stairs and open her bedroom door. And so she's standing behind her door with her baseball bat. She swings at this intruder. And because this is one of the things I'm like, thank you, fuck. This is what you're supposed to do. It's what I tell my mother to do all the time. You keep a sock on top of your baseball bat so that when they grab the baseball bat, they pull the sock off and you get to fucking hit them again. And so dude grabs the bat. Like she pulls the bat off and then cracks him in like his shoulder. And of course he grabs the bat and like pulls it out of her arm. And who the fuck is it? It's fucking Graham. Because
that was a solid choice.
I had like this. I have no words.
Oh, he's
for this.
so
I have
sweet.
no words.
Breaking in, like
So
what kind of guy?
He was just concerned about her.
Yeah, just wanted to check in.
So he just went ahead and made a copy of the key to her house at his leisure, and owns it now.
Oh.
So he just did that, and then he just shows up to her house in the middle of the night unannounced, unlocks her door, and then comes upstairs where she's sleeping. And I just have I have no words for it. I do not. And then he gets her all like in a tizzy, like they do some makeouts and it gets hot and heavy and whatever.
Oh my God.
And then he just leaves. Like he goes and sleeps in another room or whatever, but he like leaves her. And this is like punishment because he specifically was like, do not get involved with this Zelda bullshit. I do not want you near any of it. Please stay away from all of it. And what did she do? She ran headfirst into danger with her best friend Flo. And like could have got shot, admittedly. Yeah, it was really dumb. But he straight up uses this to punish her. I can't do it. It's some weird, horrible, manipulative bullshit, and I wanted to gouge my eyes out reading it. I'm not gonna lie. Anyway, I have no words for that. It was just awful, and I'm like, you're using sex as a weapon, and I can't fucking deal with that, especially in this kind of situation. It's like, anyway, all of it's bad. The next morning, because Gwen goes out for a run every Sunday or super early in the morning, apparently, which is fair.
Gross.
You gotta do sometimes. But she was out for a run this morning, and it's like before dawn, stupid early, and she always stops and stretches at the old Burying Point graveyard, which is like right in the middle of the city. And so this one morning, she's stopping to do it. Like she's done running and she's gonna do her stretching, and she runs up to this graveyard, and there's like another scene staged at the graveyard. And she like approaches it and of course, like running through her head, she's like, oh, haha, like this is Salem. This is like the old Burying Point graveyard. Like it's kind of an iconic place. It's someone just like fucking around, right? Like they just, threw a corpse on there probably to take some pictures and just like left it or whatever. And then she walks up and gets closer and closer and closer, and she sees that it's Eliza Proctor, her neighbor, who is sitting there in a very like sacrificial kind of way, with like a dagger jammed in her chest, and just like covered in blood, and there's runes and stuff everywhere. Of course, like these two like ladies are out walking their dogs and see this and start like accusing Gwen of killing somebody. Anyway, the cops get called, everything gets sorted out. Hightower obviously comes up to Gwen, and they have a conversation. Then of course, like Graham rolls up in typical Graham fashion, like, I'll take it from here. And I'll take over here,
bro.
Hightower. And of course, like they clear Gwen's name because Eliza was killed elsewhere and then brought to the graveyard to be staged. But it's also another warning to Gwen, basically, to be like, you're next. Like this is what's coming for you, because number one, like this is her neighbor. They knew she was a coven. Whoever, like the heretic people knew she was a coven member. They knew that Gwen would come by her specifically in this place at this time. Like they knew Gwen's routine. And so they specifically left Eliza there for her as a warning. So Graham takes her home, and this is where she just comes clean about all of it. She tells them about the other coven, about the heretics, just about all of it. And everything that she had been kept, like, that she withheld the truth from to him, and about Zelda, and just like she just like divulges all of it, and we all get on the same page about it. And so then of course they do it, because of course they do, and then of course they have like a really big fight after that, because of course they do. And then she gets like tequila drunk with her best friend Flo, because of course you do after you have a fight with the guy you're not really dating but you're kind of dating. And then after she's done getting tequila drunk, and we pour Flo back into a car for her boyfriend to take her home, Graham like lets himself into her house again and stays over for the night.
Because of course he does?
Because of course he does, even though they're like in the middle of a fight, because he's like, well, I'm gonna like we're gonna fight, and like what am I supposed to do? Like I'm just can't not protect you, obviously. And it's just like, is this supposed to be endearing? What is going on right now?
But he's so sweet because she's traumatized.
She doesn't know what she wants, so he's telling her.
And
he's just looking out for her.
And then so imagine just being like wicked tequila drunk, and you're like, now's not the time to have this conversation, but we're gonna have this conversation anyway. And so they have this conversation about how she's gonna continue trying to sabotage the relationship, because like that's what she does, and she doesn't let people in, and she just like it has very superficial relationships because of that. And
And also
And
because
then-
she never wanted to be in a relationship with him.
And so of course she like brings up the shit that he said 2 years ago that really like triggered her into like never liking him ever again. And instead of apologizing
Oh, God.
or saying anything of the sort, he says, and I quote, "You don't want an apology." And I don't know what
You
to
don't
do
want
with
an
that.
apology. You just want me to kiss you.
I don't know what to do with that information. It feels like this is supposed to be a 4D chess move, and I don't think it is. I think missed the mark on that one. There's zero acknowledgement whatsoever about how shitty he is. He was just like, I was shooting this shit with my friends and you weren't supposed to hear it. And it's like, that's not an acceptable, like, anything.
I fucking hated that.
I can't.
That's a cop out.
Oh, it's such bullshit because it's just like,
Yeah.
like what, like, but you actually fully believe everything that came out of your mouth. So like,
You can't get mad at that. You weren't supposed to hear it.
Yeah.
I can't.
That's
can't.
exactly what I thought you were going to tell me. He said, by the way, you weren't supposed
Amazing.
to hear that.
Yeah, like you weren't supposed to
That's
overhear
the
it.
vibes.
It was me shooting the shit with my friends, and you weren't supposed to hear it. It's like, what the fuck?
It's just
is
locker
that?
room talk, babe.
Oh my god, death.
Guys just do that kind of stuff.
Fuck. Oh my god, I'm so triggered by that. Jesus fucking Christ. Oh,
Doesn't mean anything.
doesn't mean anything. Jesus. Oh my god, murder. Okay.
You're reading too heavily into this.
So then,
You're just taking the words I said literally.
how? Yeah, I mean, you don't even want an apology, do you? It's like, oh, gaslight her harder.
Hear the first hour of the conversation where I said she has nice tits. Like, come on, girl.
Jesus Christ. Fuck.
Didn't you hear all the good stuff I said?
How much I actually love witches. Jesus. They just have such good tits. Okay. So
Witchy tits.
Witchy Tits. That's the name of the art. That's the name of this one.
Excellent.
Witch Tits. Okay. They obviously do sexy things again because of course they do. Anyway,
It's his only way to get her to shut up.
it literally that's dead ass. The only way they can come to a resolution in a conflict is to fuck each other. And it's like, this is
God,
the
I
most-
wish she'd stop talking. I know. Take my dick.
Fuck, it's so toxic.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's his part of the book.
Yeah.
He really wished that he had his own little fucking whatever narration.
Point of view.
There you go.
POV.
Oh my god, she's talking again. And now it's about her aunt and her tits and girl, shut up and suck my dick.
I got
Oh.
something you can cry about.
Oh, God.
Graham,
Okay.
I forgive you. But I didn't apologize. I forgive you.
Ugh. So Jacqueline, this is where the part of your notes comes in. And I wanted to get your take on it. The next morning, she wakes up at 10 o'clock or something, and Graham just got up early and stripped all the wallpaper in her dining room
Right. Mm-hmm.
and just left it there because this is him being like, you're going to renovate your house and I'm going to make you do it because you need to do it and you want to do it, but you can't for some reason do it yourself. So I'm going to start the process for you and then you're going to do it. So he literally strips all the wallpaper and then gets called to work and has to leave. So he just
Okay.
left an entire dining room full of gross wallpaper.
I'm going to do it and you can clean it up.
Didn't even put it in a garbage bag. Or anything.
No, didn't do any of that.
And there's probably some floating in her fish tank and shit. What a
Yeah, she had a
guy.
fish tank. There would absolutely be some in there. Yeah, shit gets everywhere.
Yeah.
Anyway, I thought that was kind of a weird one because
Yeah,
if someone
that's-
just stripped all the wallpaper in one of my rooms while I was sleeping, I'd probably be not super happy about that.
Yeah. I mean,
Especially if it was a discussion, then that's a different thing. But he just straight up did it.
Because she's not a girl that exudes control issues or anything. Yeah, sure. Just go and rip shit apart in my house. I won't have a fucking conniption over that.
Well, and I don't know, man. It's just, and then you're also you're making her have to do a thing.
Yeah, that's a big fucking project.
That's a big project, and it came across very tone deaf. I see what they're trying to do
He's trying to be
No.
sweet and but what?
and help
Oh, he's
her.
helping her.
It's
He's helping her
nice.
be a better person.
It's
have a better
nice
house.
if you take her and go pick out some paint or some new wallpaper and ask her and then find out what she wants to do, and then like surprise she comes home from getting kidnapped again, and her dining room is nice the way she wanted it or something, but like to just do it and leave a giant fucking mess everywhere, and like forcing her to change her house even though she's still like dealing with her fucking aunt's death, and like Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
What is wrong with you?
I mean, tip of the iceberg, I guess. And so this is another one where she's like, she gets up at like 10 o'clock in the morning, whatever, and she's like, okay, well, I'm going to go into work because they're this is a Monday, and the shop is closed on Mondays. But she's going to go in and like do some work or whatever. And he's like, you're staying here all day. You're not allowed to leave the house because like somebody just threatened you last night, and we're going to get to the bottom of it. So you're staying here.
You're not allowed to leave your house until this dining room is clean.
Jesus. Anyway, that's literally what she does for her day, Jack. Like,
now get in the kitchen and make me a sandwich.
Oh, fuck.
You know what you did.
And so this is where we get a line from her that, anyway, she says that she kind of turns it around on him, and she's like, well, I'm not gonna balk, and I'm not gonna like stay indoors and like all this shit. Like I'm trusting you to protect me. And so if you protect me, we won't have a problem. And so she turns it around on him to be like, if you do your job right, basically, I should be able to do whatever I want. And he like melts at that for whatever reason, because he's like, oh, you trust me to protect you. And so he's like, I don't know. This gets him for some reason.
Alpha male bullshit.
It's alpha male bullshit, but it's like, it's just weird alpha male bullshit. Anyway.
It's like, oh, she loves me. She really loves me.
And this is where, Jack, this is where you get that fucking line that it goes, wish I knew 2 years ago that I could kiss the bitchiness out of you. It would have saved me a lot of nights with blue balls.
He said that to her?
That is a quote directly out of the book.
Isn't that swoon-worthy?
Are you fucking serious?
Right?
Yeah, dude. I wish I could make that up. I can't. I couldn't. I could never.
I wish I knew 2 years ago I could kiss the... Oh my fucking
The only way you
God.
could have made that statement worse is if he had said "fuck the bitchiness out of you." Like that's such a bad statement.
I'm like, yeah. I have no words for that one. Did you have any readers read this before you published it, and did you just not listen to what they said? I can't imagine. I could never. Anyway.
I thought you were asking me that question.
It's
and I was
rhetorical.
Like, no, who would I have gotten to read that book?
No, it's a rhetorical to the world. I can't believe somebody did this.
What?
So we're gonna carry on though. We're gonna carry on. We're just gonna move past that one.
But like, he's not even supposed to be like the biggest fucking dickhead in the world. Like, that's supposed to be an okay thing to say at this point, because now his balls aren't blue anymore.
Yeah, this is supposed to be like endearing or something. Not
We're
quite sure.
so happy for you.
Then she's at work the following day, and this is where we catch up with the prologue. So Hightower is like in the back stock room waiting to have a meeting with her, to talk to her when she gets to work. He ends up bringing her in for questioning because the knife that was used to kill Eliza has Gwen's prints on it, and it was missing from her store, and so it looks like Gwen potentially killed this guy. He has her in for questioning, and she's looking through all these files again and trying to figure, like, just letting her brain kind of figure it out a little bit more, and she comes to this conclusion that all of the sacrifices happened in line with the lunar calendar. The next sacrifice is going to happen on Samhain, which is Halloween. So this gives them like a kind of a timeline to suss this out. And this is like, I think 3 weeks before Halloween, roughly, like 2 or 3 weeks. So this is giving them a timeline to work with. Because what they're trying to do here is these sacrifices are supposed to be like powerful magic. And so the powerful magic tied into the lunar calendar is like the most powerful you can have. And so if they perform these rituals in line with the peaks of the lunar calendar, it's like the most ideal time to do them.
Right.
Samhain.
And
Yes.
charge your crystals at the same time, kind of.
Yes, always charge your crystals on a full moon. We do get her name cleared because I mentioned that Graham had put up cameras at her place of business. And so it showed her not there basically at whatever, like whenever the knife was taken, or like it basically like clocked her of where she was at the time, and so she has an alibi. You also get this, like, of course Graham busts in and like loses his fucking mind about like, call my goddamn lawyers if you want to talk to them, like don't bring her in here for questioning and
Let's
blah, blah,
measure
blah, blah, blah.
dicks.
Let me get my fucking dick measuring tape. And so this is where also when they leave, Graham divulges to Gwen that they found Zelda and they have her in custody at Gravewatch. And Gwen convinces Graham to let her talk to Zelda before he hands her off over to the O'Banions. Because she wants to like get her cleared basically. And now Graham, interestingly enough, is like acquiescing to that. Because if you remember originally, he's like, I'm just catching her and handing them over. Like, I'm done with this. I'm not getting involved in it. And now that she's involved with it, he's like being more lenient about it, basically. And so she goes in and talks to Zelda about the whole thing. And basically ends up threatening her at the end to be like, okay, well, if you're not going to tell me anything, they're just going to hand you over to the O'Banions and like have a good day. And so Zelda divulges the location of the jewels that she had stole. And they were... I think they came from like she had shipped them to her sisters in Maine or something. Like they're in transit somewhere, and so like nobody can put their hands on them. But anyway,
always use tracking, folks.
Yeah. So they're somewhere in the ether. So that's what's going on there. And then we have this like, oh god. There's this moment where Gwen has this like little breakdown because Graham is quote unquote too good to her.
Excuse me? What was that? Can you repeat that for me?
Gwen has a bit of a breakdown because Graham is too good to her.
Oh my goodness. So she's just like realizing how lucky she is.
And so
trauma.
They're having this conversation about how he like wants to move into her place and like have a life together, and like he's been kind of like waiting for 2 years to kind of like, you know, like wait for her to sort her shit out so that he can make his move and all this shit. and he drops the like, I've known you a lot longer than 2 years, firecracker, and then she's the like, oh my god, I can't believe you remember me. And he's like, of course I remember you. I knew you since you were 10 years old. Me, bleh. Fuck. Anyway. And then Jacqueline, because what happens? We have to have some shit here.
But also, I have to say, like, back to like what you just said, like, as cliched as that whole like, yeah, I remember you from childhood thing is, it would have been cute and it would have worked if everything else it wasn't so fucking tragic. Like, yeah. That's a thing I would expect at this point in a book like this. Like, yeah, that makes sense. Of course. Oh, how sweet. Oh, they're reunited. But like,
yeah,
he's half demoed a goddamn great room and like gaslit her 7 ways to Sunday. So.
Yeah, it doesn't really make I like the concept. Good concept, bad execution is what we say in the industry.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like that was unfortunate. It was kind of it's like this book is full of like kind of okay moments that are like wrapped up in this horrible badness that is not acceptable, and it's kind of tragic.
Okay, so I feel like that is what would happen in a book like this. Like he would bring up how he knew her way longer than 2 years, and she would be like, you remember? I was only 10. And he's like, yeah, I thought you were really fucking hot. And like, whatever. Like,
Jesus.
And it would be like
exactly those words too.
It would be like a sweet moment in like every book, like a very like cliche thing that like you would just automatically think to write in your book. So maybe she just didn't want to do like the super cliche thing, and so she wanted to make it like really fucked up, like instead of it being like sweet, and she just wants to like really fucking piss us off. Because
I feel like that's a great business model.
That's like not typical. I feel like they don't always want to like enrage their readers.
Yeah, I mean, do you remember? Do you know what this book vibes? The vibes I'm getting from it are. Do you remember when we read "One Moment, Please" for Mother's Day?
Yeah.
The vibes, right? And we
Yeah.
were talking about this thing earlier about like normal human beings, and I just don't.
What are they?
Well, this is what I mean. Of like, there are normal human beings out there that have read this book and feel like all of this is perfectly acceptable. This is where every so often I feel like I'm not a human being because I'm like, how is any of this okay? And like, granted, like I think it's sitting at like a 3.8 or something on Goodreads. Like, it's not a horrible score. Like a 3.8 is basically a 4. So like, why is this acceptable? And why do people like it? Like I can't
mean,
wrap my head around it.
The Ritual by Chantal Tessier is like a massively, massively, massively popular book on like Book Talk and all that stuff. I don't know what it rates on Goodreads, but like it's, and like this is coming from, yes, it's dark romance, and this is coming from somebody who's read a fair amount of dark romance. It's abuse, and it is so like it's so popular. It's one of those like he realizes that he's in love with her after he's done all this damage to her, and it's like no. Even when you have these like dark romance guys, like if that was the vibe here, they listen. Like, and that's like the draw. Like they pay attention to the things that she likes. Like, yeah, okay, maybe he's stalking her, but like he knows her favorite flowers are gardenias.
Well, and,
you know,
and that's the vibe
And
here
maybe
too, Ash, if you
he's-
remember.
Maybe he's having food delivered to her house while he's watching behind a tree. But like he knows
Yeah.
she wants a bucket of Parmesan cheese on her pasta. So like that's really sweet.
yeah.
And so there's tone of that here as well because he knows all these, and like I said before, there's like these little nuggets every so often that like he knows her favorite, he knows how her coffee, like how she likes her coffee. He knows how she likes her breakfast sandwich. He knows her favorite dish at this obscure restaurant. Like he has paid attention to all these things over the years. And so he has an entire like cache of information about her that she does not have about him. And she finds that incredibly endearing too, because like, oh, this guy took the time to care and notice things about me. And it's like, yeah, but he's
But then you
also,
question the intent.
but yeah, and then it's like, to what end? Because he then also broke into your fucking house. Like, what the hell? Like,
And
it's
ripped
just-
up
Yeah,
all
but I
your
mean, stalker
wallpaper.
romance, they break into the house too, and that's people still think that's hot.
Do you think her friend just like gave him all this information? Because she's
No.
a fucking psycho bitch friend also. So I can,
No, this
I
is-
can see
it's-
that happening.
Can we also just mention for a second that her friend is like a primary school teacher or something,
Yeah,
or like
she
a
is.
kindergarten teacher?
Yeah, she's a grade school teacher.
Yeah, and when they go to like stalk Zelda, she's like fucking called in sick.
Yep, she called in
Sorry,
sick to
Miss
stalk.
Flo's not here right now.
Where's Miss Flo? Oh, she's stalking a psychic. She'll be back tomorrow unless she
With
dies.
a-
Why is that bandage on your arm? I got attacked by a parrot.
Oh my god.
Miss Flo, why is your eye bleeding?
Okay, so then another cliche thing happens, where they like sleep together, because if you recall, he has been sleeping in a different room when he stays over at her place because she cannot sleep with another human being.
Right.
So of course, all of this conversating and whatever makes her just instantly get over her insomnia.
Right.
And so they sleep
Or
together.
Was it the nice tea that he made her, aka drugged her, so she could fall
Listen,
Chloroform
I just
in
work
it.
here, Jack. I don't know the answer to that. Potentially. He blew some shit in her face and she fell asleep. Yeah. You know, it's actually probably not far from the truth, but not in that way.
Somnophilia.
Sweet dreams, baby.
If you wake up choking on my dick, no, you didn't.
No, you didn't. I mean, consensual non-consent's a thing. So the next day she is at work and Agatha and Sally show up to the gallows where like they're on the way to the wake for Eliza. And so Agatha and Sally are the other two witches that were that had kidnapped Gwen originally / were trying to protect her. And they gift her this bone pendant necklace that had belonged to her aunt, and just like for protection sort of thing. And so just a thing to note because it does come up later. And then we also get this little scene with, okay, there's this guy named Pegleg Pete. Okay. And he was like,
I love the segue.
put a
So
pin
there's
in
this
that
guy,
bone
Pegleg
pendant.
Pete.
And there's
So
this guy
there's
Peg
this
Leg Pete.
bone necklace, and then there's this guy named Peg Leg Pete. And what happened to his bone?
Admittedly, it is Salem, but anyway, so there's little Salem nugget of information. There are rival pirate museums in Salem, and so the one that Peg Leg Pete works at is like the original pirate museum, and then there's like another pirate museum that is like trying to infringe on their information, and another one that's trying to infringe on their business. And so Peg Leg Pete ends up printing these brochures, and Gwen had assured him earlier in the book, which I didn't bring up because it's fucking 2-second conversation. Gwen was like, oh yeah, drop them by the gallows and I'll leave them, like I'll give them out to clients or something, or, you know, whoever, to help you guys with business. And so there's this like map on the brochure, and Gwen was looking at it, and she was like drawing lines, or like marking where the rituals had taken place on the map. And she comes to the conclusion that like there's a pattern here on this, and she draws it, and then ends up she has to go somewhere, whatever, crams it in her bag and kind of forgets about it. And so in the meantime too, I should mention this, Graham is out of the city because he's doing this job somewhere up north. And so he gets his twin brothers to kind of keep an eye on Gwen in the meantime.
Oh my god.
What are their names again? Because we do get like, and these guys come back around too, because there's 3 books in the series. Holden and Hunter, who are his brothers, and they're twins. Then we have like Sawyer, who's the surveillance guy at Gravewatch, and we have Wells and Keir, and then Brienne, who I mentioned before. Sawyer, I believe, has his own book later too. I also suspect there's going to be more books in this series, like with all of the guys from Gravewatch.
That's definitely how she geared it up.
Yeah, I think so, because like we just get like, because like the next book is about Hightower. I suspect that Julie's going to go through all of the Gravewatch employees and write books about them, which fine, that like cool, great, all right, I guess. I'm not going to read them, but that they'll be there. Good to know.
Good for you. You wrote a book.
You wrote,
and then you wrote some more.
and then probably 5 more, and cool, congrats. So the twins are keeping an eye on her. They're going to a Halloween party this evening. And this, I should mention too, it's like a week before Halloween, or it's like a few days before Halloween. So like they've got time basically. Like Gwen can kind of like have a bit of freedom, but still being watched, just, you know, in case some shit goes down.
Yeah, they wouldn't want to protect her in case she got kidnapped early or something.
Okay, Jacqueline. So not what you think. However, still what you think. So they're going down this alleyway again, which again, I'm like, know that alleyway, know it well, walked down that alleyway before. And the twins get jumped by the O'Banions.
Oh my goodness, what a shocking thing to have happened.
Because they know that Gravewatch has Zelda and that they're not giving her back to them. And there's this big tiff about like, well, we hired you to do a job, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, get fucked. Like, you need to talk to my brother about that sort of thing and whatever. So there's a big confrontation. There's a fight. And Gwen like breaks off and runs away. She runs back because she doesn't have, I don't think she has her phone or anything. She's just like kind of scattered, and she gets through the crowd and she ends up back at the shop. And so when she gets into the shop, she's like going to go grab the phone or whatever. But then she gets stopped by Hetty, her barista. And Hetty is not wearing any of her classic makeup. And Hetty is not wearing her usual clothes. And Hetty is in...
Not Hetty.
A robe. And Hetty is one of the heretics. And Hetty was the one who stole the knife. And Hetty was the one who killed Eliza. And so this is where we find out that, like, Hetty was... had taken this job over 6 months ago at the gallows in order to get close to Gwen, and has basically just been like lying to her about who she is for the last 6 months. And so she kidnaps Gwen, and Gwen wakes up at the Broad Street Cemetery, which is in the middle of that map that she had drawn. There's a bunch of heretics around her, like chanting this ritual. And like I said, it's a couple days before Halloween, but the heretics are like, we knew she was being protected. Like, they knew she was being protected and knew that she was being watched all the time. And so they couldn't wait to Halloween in order to nab her. They were kind of like, whenever we can nab her, we're nabbing her. And so they did. The heretics are like chanting. She's on this like altar. She is paralyzed, so she can't, like, they blew this shit in her face again, so she can't move. I know, right? It's like, ooh, face buff, poof, like, you're done for. Who shows up, though, but the Bay Colony Coven bitches? And they show up for a fucking fight. And hilariously, because this is written from Gwen's perspective, she's paralyzed and can just look straight up and doesn't know what's going on. So all we can hear is a fight's going on. And then, of course, who else rolls up but Graham? And how does Graham know about it? Graham knows about this place because...
He's a tracking device on her because he's a stalker.
That actually would have been smarter / more in line with his character. Yeah, you're not wrong. But he found the map that she had stuffed in her purse. And, like, her purse and stuff, like, she had left it at the scene where the twin brothers were fighting, the O'Banions. And so Graham found the map and followed the map to the middle point that she had drawn on it. And so obviously he comes up and, like, shoots what's-her-face, Hetty, and, like, saves the day and whatever, and everything's hunky-dory. At one point, Gwen does use the bone pendant necklace to, like, stab Hetty and stops her from, like, finishing the ritual.
Okay, but I like that part.
Where she stabs her with the bone?
Well, yeah, but, like, you're going through all of this stuff, and it's all witchy and da-da-da-da-da and all of this stuff, but at no point is there anything that is, like, supernatural or anything like that, right? Mm-hmm. Like, so... When we got to this part, I was like, oh, here we go. It's got magic powers. It's going to deflect. No, she's just going to use it to stab someone.
No,
I was okay with that.
Just totally stabs her with it. Yep.
I like that.
I mean, like, what's the best protection? Stabbing a bitch. What's this ritualistic knife for? Stabbing people. Perfect.
I just thought I'd throw something positive out there.
Thank you, Ash. I appreciate that. We get this, like... happy ending. Graham saves the day. We get the massive I loves yous and the happy ending, and everything's hunky-dory. The Bay, like, the what's her face, Hetty gets taken into custody. The Bay Colony Coven are, like, fine. They end up teaching Gwen how to play crib and stuff, and, like, they come over for tea and she hangs out with them and everything's fine.
And Zelda's the new mayor of Salem, and
I think Zelda ends up going to jail or something. I can't remember, because she's actually been charged with fraud a couple times. So, like, this is not... Zelda is, like, not a great person to begin with. Surprise. Shocking. But anyway, she had a whole story. But it's like, would you rather be in prison or dead? And she's like, prison. Let's do it. And then we get, in the epilogue, we just get this, like, weird little epilogue. And the only purpose for the epilogue is just to intro the next character, who's Imogen Warner. And she is in the next book with Hightower. And so she's a psychic. And she's going to be taking the place of Zelda. And so anyway, we just get this, like, little kind of vignette of her introducing herself in a very kind of psychic, spooky way too, which is nice. So it's like, maybe the next book will actually be, like, more supernatural. But again, I'm not going to read it, so who fucking knows? And that's the end of the book. That's all of it. That's all the wonderful stuff that happens.
Awesome.
Wonderful stuff.
Bye, everybody. It's nice to see you.
Jacqueline, unfortunately, you always forget this part, but we have something for you to read. And yeah, it's in the middle of, they're just having sexy times at her place, and that's what's going on. So
everybody has normal appendages.
Yeah, it's all normal. It's fine.
That's good, I guess. Although I feel like I would rather something exciting right now.
You and me both, buddy. It's totally fair. Anyway, here's
I'm gonna throw a tentacle in there for you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Go to town.
Christ, you're beautiful, Graham muttered, his burning gaze aimed directly between my legs. I can't fucking wait to taste you. I'll never get enough. I didn't even have time to catch my breath before my legs were jerked up over his shoulders. His head came down and his mouth hit the target. Hellfire. Graham was good at everything, but he was especially good at this. I bit my lip to keep from screaming as he began to fuck me with his mouth. One of his hands spanned my ass, anchoring me firmly against his face, but the other found its way between my legs to join his mouth as he worked me over. He expertly thumbed my clit as his tongue speared deep inside me, gradually increasing his speed until I was bowing and squirming on the bed, lost in a sea of sensation. I felt the orgasm building, an unstoppable force that stole my breath and turned my bones to water. "Hold still," Graham muttered, pulling back to bite my thigh, his teeth a sharp warning, "or you don't get to finish." "Please," I cried. "Are you going to hold still like a good girl?" "Yes." "Say it." "I'll be a good girl." "Whose good girl?" "Yours." "Damn straight." He grinned. His lips were shining in the darkness, still wet. "My good girl." His mouth dropped back between my legs, teeth scraping lightly over my hypersensitive center. That was all it took. I came hard, the orgasm exploding through me, overriding all my senses. I think I actually may have blacked out for a moment, because by the time sanity returned, Graham was lying beside me, staring at my face in the dark. He wore a distinctly smug expression. Oh, of course he did. "Don't look so self-satisfied," I told him, still panting. "It's annoying." "If anyone's satisfied here, it's you." "Are you saying you're not satisfied?" "On the contrary, hearing you admit you were mine was the most satisfied I've ever been." Scowling, I made like I was going to get off the bed and storm away. Only, at the last second, I changed course, rolling to his side of the bed and straddling him instead. My elbows planted in the pillows on either side of his head. My hair fell around our faces in a thick curtain. I slowly lowered my body onto his. Through his jeans, he was hard as stone, the rigid length of him throbbing with need. "Let's see if we can increase that satisfaction," I whispered, rubbing myself against his cock, slithering down his body until my face was level with his zipper. My teasing fingers found the button. "Shall we?" With a growl, Graham yanked me back up, then flipped me over onto my back. His arms caged me in. His eyes glittered with heat. "Playtime is over. I need to fuck you now, Gwen." Patience is a virtue. I nipped at his earlobe with my teeth, sucking it slowly into my mouth. His whole frame shuddered in response, as though his control was hanging by the most precipitous of threads. "Don't make me beg." "Gwen." "I want you in my mouth, baby," I breathed. "I want to play, just for a little bit." He groaned and pressed against me, his cock throbbing as my hands worked his zipper down. "Then I want you to fuck me until I forget my own name," I continued. "I want you to fuck me until you forget yours, too." "Christ," he murmured, rolling off me. For a panicked second, I thought he was going to walk away. A surge of heat rolled through me when I realized he was only shoving off his jeans. "You can play later," he informed me as his cock sprang free, bossy as ever. "Right now, I'm going to bury myself inside you because, baby, watching you come just now, then hearing you beg to suck me off and fuck you into oblivion, that's about more than I can take without losing my fucking mind." Wowza. When he settled back between my legs, I gasped at the feeling of him with nothing to separate us. Hard, huge, and mine. All mine. "Firecracker," he said, his voice a low rasp of passion. "I don't care if you forget your own name, so long as you don't forget who you belong to." I had no chance to comment on the deeply possessive comment before he thrust into me, sheathing himself to the hilt, filling me until I thought I might shatter in two. Frankly, from that point onward, I was in no state to care about his possessive streak. My mind went blank as he began to move, his hips thrusting long and hard and deep, driving me slowly toward the edge of euphoria. I wrapped my arms and legs around him, holding my body to his, wishing I could disappear inside his skin, fuse myself to him irreparably so this moment would never disappear, so we would never disappear. God, Graham gasped, kissing me hard. You feel so fucking amazing. Nothing in the world better than this, right here, inside you. I kissed him back, unable to articulate everything I was feeling. It was all I could do to hold on as his pace increased to a pounding, punishing rhythm that made me dizzy with need. I could feel another orgasm building deep within my core as the hollow ache he'd created inside me filled up with passion once more. Gwen, he said, eyes locked with mine, the green bright enough to scald. Come with me. Yes. He drove deeper, so deep it bordered on painful, but in the best sort of way. My eyes pricked with tears, not from discomfort, but from the sheer magnitude of what I was feeling. I was holding my breath, balanced on my tiptoes, standing on a tightrope, a hair's breadth from plummeting into a swallowing abyss. I could build a whole world around this feeling, around this passion, around this man. The thought hit me the same moment my orgasm did. Are you there, baby? Graham groaned. I'm there, I cried, clenching tighter around him as I fell off the tightrope, spiraling straight down into the depths of passion, a brilliant free fall. And he followed me over, shouting my name as he climaxed, pouring into me, pump after pump, thrust after thrust, until my frazzled nerve endings were singing with hypersensitivity and my body felt wrung out, boneless and breathless, and completely content in a way I'd never felt before. Not once, not ever. I could build my world around this man, I thought again as the aftershocks racked me. I really could. My lips pressed against the skin of his chest, directly over his heart, which was beating just as fast as my own. Maybe I already have.
Thanks for that, Jack.
Yep.
My enthusiasm.
You did it.
It's done. I'm so thankful that you finished. Thank you.
I'm so proud of you.
Such a good
I'm
girl,
thankful
gold star.
thankful that we all finished. Good job, everyone.
So
Elliot's proud too.
No more
Yeah,
blue
go
balls for
Elliot.
this guy.
So in the essence of being finished with this, what shall we rate this on? Any
Witchy
suggestions?
tits.
There's only 2 witchy tits though.
No, there's 6 witchy tits.
Oh yeah, fair enough. Okay. Let's rate this on 6 witchy tits. I will go first because I never go first, so why not? I give this 1 witchy tit. I would give this less than 1 witchy tit, except I love Salem. And that's the only reason. Because the author, Julia, I will say, she certainly has a passion about Salem, and it comes through in this book. And that's the only nice fucking thing I have to say about it. Oh,
Yeah.
I will say too, though, the writing is actually not horrendous.
No,
Like,
it's not. It's not bad.
The writing is like, it's kind of quirky and weird, and I really appreciate the inner dialogue of Gwen, and like, it doesn't really come through in the conversation we had, only because like it's such a niche thing that you actually have to read it in order to kind of get a handle on it. But the writing is actually very good, and I did enjoy it for the most part. But like, damn, there's not a lot of redeeming factors in this book.
And I don't think you need to be passionate about something in order to write it well. Like, if I wanted to write a book about a small town and I pictured friggin' our small town in our head, I could write a really fucking accurate picture of a small town.
Oh, that's
Like-
and that's totally true. But like, I don't know. Like, it was casually, it was casually Salem, is what I'll say, because like, it wasn't. I feel like if a person going to Salem for the first time would be like very over the top in describing it, because it is a very over the top place, and this felt like, it felt like somebody who lived there, where it's like there's like this level of acceptance of the weird that it just happens. And like, I always say whenever I go to Salem that like everyone's in on the joke, because everyone that lives there and is around there is like, yeah, it's Halloween town. Like, this is what happens here, is Halloween shit. And everybody just accepts that. And so that level of casual acceptance reflected in the book. I was just like, okay, cool. Like, this is like, you obviously get the vibe of Salem. And because like, I feel like if someone was like, I'm going to write a book about Salem, go there one time, and then like, it's kind of excessive, because it is an excessive place. So I don't know. And because it's also like partially off season Salem too. So I don't know. It's, it came through, like the way I feel about Salem came through in this book. So like I can appreciate that a lot.
That makes sense. I see what you're saying.
Ashton, do you have any strong opinions about how you'd like to reflect on this book? Yeah, that about sums it up. So how many witchy tits would you like to rate it?
Like 2, maybe 2.5.
Wow.
There were some redeeming factors in this book. It was quirky. I appreciate what she was trying to do. I wanted to like it. I really, really did. But then he got gaslighty and she got like inconsistent, like one of those girls who like punishes guys for like, I don't know, it was just, and she didn't seem consistent at all as a character. But then I mean the pieces that were consistent, I personally was like, I don't like you very much. Like, I just, and like there were pieces of it that I wanted more, wanted it more fleshed out. Like you go in and you go on about her whole backstory and it's like, okay, cool. Like, are we gonna see pieces of that come into it beyond the fact that she can't sleep with somebody? Like, do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, and there were like a few other little nuggets here and there that she does talk about, but it's not like, I don't know. I almost wanted whole scenes from her childhood. You know what I mean? Like flashbacks to like actual stuff happening.
That sounds like the most interesting part. That you
it
just
really
don't
did.
hear about it.
Yeah, but also like it was one of those, you put a lot of effort into that aspect of her story, and you put a lot of detail into that aspect of her story for it to fall so flat.
Well, and it was so defining too. Like, and the whole, because the whole arc of the story is that like there's this guy who is getting her out of that comfort zone that she put herself in because of her trauma, but then you don't flesh her trauma out as much as you should have. So it's like, okay, cool. So then he had an easy job doing that, I guess. Like, I don't know.
But also the focus is on him, right?
Yes.
The flashbacks are of him. So it's like the trauma is secondary. The story is about the dude.
Yeah.
And,
I agree.
Okay. But also, like, anyway. Yeah, like, no, 2. Just
like I think the entire book fails the Bechdel test. I think that's what it is.
The what test?
The Bechdel test. It's the one where like when people write women and they write it in relationships to men as opposed to writing it about women.
Right.
So I don't know. It just has that vibe about it where I'm like, this entire book, Gwen was just a relationship to him, and like every time she talked to Flo, it was about him. It's annoying. I didn't like it. Grumpy. Jacqueline? Jacqueline, do you have any how many witchy tits do you feel about that?
So whose witchy tits are there?
The Covens.
Agnes, Sally, and the dead one.
Eliza,
that one.
Okay. So the
They're
one that gave
octogenarians.
her like the bone necklace or whatever.
Yeah.
yes.
My witchy tits were alive witchy tits.
What?
Mine's a dead witchy tit.
Oh yeah, okay. I see.
Mine are Eliza's dead witchy tit.
I mean, I feel like
But only one.
Yeah, just one.
Yeah, I feel like mine might be like a dead witchy tit and like a saggy alive one or so.
So is that 1.5?
Or is that 3?
Kinda.
I will say, Julie used the word octogenarians in this book like 3 times, and I was very pleased with that.
Okay.
It's one of my favorite words.
That's like one of those things that would bother me if I was reading it, because it's like a notable word and I'd be like, okay, cool. And
No,
then
it felt okay.
okay,
honestly.
that's good.
It wasn't excessive.
Right. The one thing I did like about it was that her like barista or whatever turned out to be the bad guy.
Yeah,
which
I honestly didn't
was
see that
kinda
one coming.
fun.
Yeah,
Like,
that was really...
I was really, really hoping that it was going to be Graham. And then...
Or Hightower. Hightower would have been a good one, too.
Yeah, like, but
I was
Graham
expecting
just
Hightower.
because then I felt like us hating him would have been like on purpose, but
Right.
now it's just kind of like, no, we're supposed to like him, and
that's unfortunate.
yeah, that's very, very
That's
unfortunate.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, even during this like excerpt that I can't say that word very well, excerpt that I read, he can't even like let her suck his dick for a minute. He's just like, fuck, like, stop being such an asshole. Like, what is
He literally
wrong with
can't,
you?
Jacqueline. He
Like-
literally cannot even.
And even just like, ugh, like, I get like the kind of banter, like, if anyone's satisfied here, it's you, and blah blah blah, but like, I don't know, it doesn't, just like from all the other stuff that you said, it doesn't seem like it's like friendly banter. It seems like he's a fucking douchebag.
Well, and
like,
you know what? I think part of it too is that, like, you know how there are couples out there that just like fight, like that's what they do. And then, but that's like a normal thing for them, is that they're like, oh, we're in a fight and we're having a fight, and then the next day they make up and whatever. And it's just like, it's like a constant thing where they're always fighting, or they always have a fight on the go. That's the vibe here, and it's so fucking strange to me, because whenever I'm like, why do you guys fight so much? Just break up. Like, you hate each other.
right?
It's so weird. It's so, the vibes are so fucking weird with those people.
And I don't know. I don't know. It's just such a weird, like, he's like the whose good girl are you, and like whatever, that stuff's fine, but then it's like, you actually like think that you like are in charge of her, and like you have already at this point, I'm assuming, ripped off her fucking wallpaper. Like, what the hell is wrong with you? Like, ugh.
Yeah, it's something. It's definitely something. Well, that's the book. That's it. Whatever. I'm sorry. If you read that, if you continue reading it, let me know how that goes, but I'm not going to. But the next time we are back, we are reading a very special book that Ashton turned me on to. It is
You're
called
welcome.
Delilah Green Doesn't Care by
Okay.
Ashley Herring Blake. That's a sapphic romance. I actually I picked it up from Amazon, just straight up. It bought the book. It wasn't available on Kindle Unlimited, but I was like, I mean, I'm going to pay for this book. So I just bought it on Amazon. It's super cute. It's one of those like super cute little animated covers, and it's a nice book. And yeah, I highly
How
recommend.
come
pick that up.
lesbians get such a fun word?
Sapphic?
It's sapphic?
Yeah.
I don't know. Probably because lesbian wasn't a word that they used, and now we use it. Like sapphic's probably like an oldie word or something.
Right.
I'm not sure. We could look it up. You know what? I'll look it up and put it in the notes for next time, just for you.
Oh my god. I love it.
We will talk about Delilah Green Doesn't Care next time we are back, which, I don't know. We'll see how the schedule goes. Hopefully it'll be on time. And we'll see you guys next time on the Queens of Spice podcast. Thanks for sticking in. And we'll see you later. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to the Queens of Spice podcast. You'll find us on Instagram and Twitter at Queens of Spice. Or if you want to send us an email, you can reach us at queensofspice@gmail.com.